What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of Woodmine Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K. So if you guys are unaware, I've started a new Space Marine successor chapter of the Iron Hands entitled the Obsidian Ghosts, and these are going to be Primaris, and the lore I'm coming up for these guys is mainly around the Keys of Hell. When it comes to the Iron Hands, they have this whole ideology of the flesh being weak. They also have some necromancy kind of infused into their lore with these Keys of Hell, which are technologies that are able to bring back the dead, although in a different state than that of like a zombie or that of like complete cognitive control of themselves. They're brought back into a state of just pain, and they're still able to function and fight as Space Marines, just in a different sense. So here I have some excerpts from the Voice of Mars, who has the Iron Hands creating undead bodyguards. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and dive into this 40k lore. The warrior towered over him, staring in confusion at the twinkling hollow lights that fell with exquisite slowness from the air, optical echoes of the scale pieces that rained from El-Rusiad's torn cloak. Gripping it with both hands to stay its shaking, El-Rusiad aimed his fusion pistol up. Deliver this to she who thirsts, Mon Kay. The excitation beam carved a straight line of distortion from the nozzle of his weapon to the underside of the warrior's chin. The Space Marine's helmet simply evaporated, the roof bursting in a splatter of oily liquid and foul smoke. Disregarding the three sergeants, at least from active senses, the Iron Father looked down at Telarch with a squeal of angling optic slits. An unstable stasis field covered the clan Rukon's first sergeant. The warrior was drowning. His thoughts were mud. Memories floated beneath the surface like the corpses of his past, turned skeletal and horrific by the wear of time and the choices he made. To no recognizable order, they rose and sank. He didn't recognize them. Occasionally a shaft of light would show the way to the surface, and he would swim towards it. Another warrior leaned over him, the dull pain and brief flash of a bionic optic meeting an unlensed optic nerve, and he sank again. Episodes of consciousness came and went. No sense of time had passed between them. One warrior would be standing there over him, then two, arguing without words, then one again. A third that he had not seen before. He realized that he was in the apothecarium. Even though he didn't know his own name, he recognized this place. He had spent a great deal of time here. He lay flat, one eyeball staring up at the metal ceiling. What was left of his body spread out across a slab. Machines chirped and beeped like anxious angels. Their chorus lulled him back into the mud, and he dreamed for who knows how long. Authority has been provided. This is my apothecarium, Dumar. I will not use the keys. They are an abomination that should have died with the Legion. Assistance is not required. The voices grew distant, disappearing altogether as the swamp closed over his head. The next time he surfaced, and it was different. Wake him. A new voice, harder than the others. Ribbons of electrification ran through his butchered nerve ends and brought light directly to his central nervous system. Glistening lumps of flesh and gristle strung across a humanoid mass of damaged bionics, quivering as the slurry was pumped into his mind, his personality writhing in sludge, the bones of his memories stranded for all those who cared to see. Telarch. His name was Telarch, and he was a warrior. The subject is conscious. How can you tell? Delta wave neural oscillations subsiding, alpha waves stabilizing, beta waves increasing in altitude. Electrical activity in the subject's visual cortex indicates awareness, and he's looking at you. The last stain of unconsciousness slipped from Telarch's eyes. He meant to blink, but he couldn't. Three figures stood over him, their armor muttering urgently as though their black and silver battleplate harbored a coven of twisted dwarves. The first was one of the apothecaries, Dumar. Telarch recognized the armor and the voice. The second was armored as a chaplain. He must be Shulgar of Clan Rukar. And the third? "Let us begin," said Christos. Behind the Iron Giant Father stood a silent rank of Terminators. Their armor was black, unmarked by any icons of allegiance, save age. It took Telarch a moment to recognize that they were empty, waiting. Telarch felt a sudden, overriding need to scream. He thought he could not do either. He was locked in. His body was not even breathing anymore, its simple chemical needs going entirely unremarked beneath a screen of mutilated flesh and Medusan iron. The perfect warrior. Flawless has he served the Iron Hands in life, Christos intoned, as the apothecary and the Iron Chaplain began to chant. May he continue in undeath. One of the Terminator suits started moving towards him, winced from its source on a mass of chains. The massive relic turned with a creak of iron, feeling some void turbulence that Telarch could no longer could. The lumens picked out raised areas where embossed detailings had been erased. It would be a relic of the lost clans destroyed on Isstvan V, hidden from the Imperium, hidden from even the successor chapters that would have depleted Medusa's armories and left her weak. Or perhaps one of the many expropriated from loyal and renegade chapters over the millennia. Tragedy struck often and everywhere, and left few witnesses. A secret kept by the Iron Council for 10,000 years. Christos and Shulgar caught the suit between them and guided it down. Dumar leaned over him, a scalpel blinking in the light. Preliminary. Remove remaining flesh and replace. Do it, said Christos. And with that being said, that is the first passage from the Voice of Mars. Here we see what it means to be revived with the usage of the Keys of Hell. So the Keys of Hell are basically the means that the Iron Fathers are used to be created. They take a dead space marine, or at least dying in some cases, and strip them of their humanity, strip them of their flesh, and make them little more than automatons inside of a suit of armor, in this case that being Terminator armor. They're basically as close as you can get to the Skitarii when it comes to being a space marine. There's a little bit more flesh involved, where I believe Skitarii are pretty much just brains and the nervous system, but here at least there's a few semblances of who they were before their input into the power armor. So that's one of the things that I want to focus on with my homebrew for the Obsidian Ghosts, and that is that they are a dying successor chapter of the Iron Hands, who are basically utilizing the Keys of Hell to reclaim themselves and hopefully attain the athames, which are the blades that were created from the bones, the fingers of Ferrus Manus. So they have gone renegade in order to accomplish this task. If you've read the lore from, I believe if it's not the Horus Heresy, it might be a little after that, where Vulcan sees this undead relic of his brother, his Primarch, Ferrus Manus, as pretty much a skeleton kind of infused with like machinery and stuff like that. Because once he was beheaded at the battle against Fulgrim, his body was recovered and it was almost put on display as kind of like a shrine to him. But when Vulcan saw this, he saw this as blasphemy, and he basically blew his body, or at least the remnants of his body, apart and spread it into tiny fragments. Ever since then, I believe whether it was or wasn't Necroderma's hands, have been used to create the Athame blades, which are powerful daggers that could rend rifts in reality and allow for either interstellar travel or as a very powerful weapon. So they're basically trying to reclaim these at any cost necessary, whether it means fighting against the Imperium, fighting against Chaos Space Marines. They also have a huge grudge against the Salamanders, because again, this was because of Vulcan's fault. And of course, they have a grudge against the Emperor's children. So that's the beginnings of my lore on them. Once I get everything kind of situated and mapped out, I'll give you the full lore on my homebrew. But for now, that's all I got for today. If you guys have any other passages that talk about the Iron Hands creating these undead cybernetic zombies through the use of the keys of hell, please let me know. I really want to indulge with as much of that type of lore as possible to make sure that my homebrew fits in the setting and sounds like it could be a legit official successor chapter of the Iron Hands. So that's all I got for today, guys. Thanks again for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. This has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll catch you then. Peace.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.